July 1988. A US Navy cruiser is battling Iranian gunboats in the Persian Gulf. Suddenly, its radar picks up a mystery aircraft. Is this plane friend or foe? They have 7 minutes to decide. As the aircraft draws ever closer, the pressure mounts.
If you do not change course to 270 immediately...
And the captain is faced with a terrible choice. Shoot it down or risk the lives of his own crew.
United States Defense Measures.
3,000. We're not getting any oxygen. We have a terrain alarm. Aero Peru 603. We are in an emergency.
It's a routine short-haul flight, but an Iranian passenger jet is heading into mortal danger.
He's opening fire with guns.
It's approaching a war zone in which a US Navy ship is engaged in combat. The crew are on a state of high alert. Anything that draws near is seen as a threat.
Air contact still inbound, increasing speed and descending range 11
United
miles.
States Naval Warship.
Closing and descending 1,000.
Now you're in real serious business.
You are standing into danger?
Wait a minute. I could be dead.
Range 13 miles.
The aircraft is not responding to warnings. Iran Air 655 seems oblivious to the danger. In 1988, Iran and Iraq have reached a stalemate in a savage 8-year conflict. It's a war of attrition, and both sides' oil exports are a target. The United States has become the chief watchdog of the Persian Gulf. Over 30 US warships protect neutral tankers. Dawn, July the 3rd. After a month on routine patrol, the USS Vincennes is heading towards port in Bahrain. Her crew are due a few days' rest and recuperation. But while his men are looking forward to the July the 4th break, Captain Will Rogers is already up. He's received disturbing reports from US intelligence, warning him to expect trouble from Iranian forces over this holiday weekend.
Yeah.
In the Vincennes Combat Information Center, the watch officer has received an urgent message from another ship in the US fleet that Iranian gunboats are harassing a Pakistani merchant vessel.
Skipper, you better come down. Sounds like the Montgomery's got her nose in a beehive.
I'll be right there.
The frigate USS Elmer Montgomery is north of the Vincennes near the narrow Strait of Hormuz. It's here that Iranian gunboats have been most active in attacking oil tankers as they exit the Persian Gulf. Designed to protect an aircraft carrier group, the Vincennes is a billion-dollar Aegis cruiser. It's armed with Mark 26 missile launchers, Harpoon anti-ship missiles, 2 5-inch guns, and the Phalanx close-in weapons system, which fires over 3,000 rounds a minute. But what makes the ship so special is its high-tech radar. The phased array Spy-1 can simultaneously search and track over 100 targets over 300 kilometers away. To crew members like Mike Zunino and Mark Nielsen, the Vincennes is simply Star Wars at sea.
I was very proud. Just technically, it just felt like a strong, secure ship to be on. It felt invincible in a way.
We had some of the most up-to-date weaponry and the radar and everything else. There wasn't a whole lot that we couldn't do.
Inside the Combat Information Center, Captain Rogers oversees a state-of-the-art computerized command and control system. His large screen displays give him an instant picture of the tactical situation. Lieutenant Commander Vic Guillory is the tactical action officer responsible for surface warfare.
Vic, what do we got on visual?
Got a cluster of bog hammers here near the Montgomery. Another cluster may be closing a merchant vessel.
Over a dozen Iranian boghammer gunboats appear to be preparing to attack a merchant ship. Boghammers are the generic name for fast speedboats manned by the Iranian Revolutionary Guards, a fundamentalist paramilitary force.
We knew that they had rockets. We knew that they had machine guns. We knew that if they got within certain range that they could, you know, literally fire off their rockets and cause grave danger.
In 1988, Iranian forces have been attacking up to 13 foreign tankers per month. Their aim is to prevent Saddam Hussein from exporting Iraqi oil. Captain Rogers sends his helicopter, call sign Ocean Lord, to investigate just what the gunboats are up to.
Roger that. Vincennes out. Vector in, Ocean Lord.
Ocean Lord is a Sikorsky Seahawk, a twin-engine helicopter designed for reconnaissance, anti-submarine and anti-ship warfare.
Roger, Trinity Sword, we read you.
Vectoring toward Montgomery now.
Ocean Lord's pilot soon finds the gunboats. They're not acting suspiciously. But he flies too close to the Iranian craft. The response is immediate, a burst of anti-aircraft fire.
Jesus! Trinity Lord, this is Ocean Lord 2-5. We are taking fire. Executing evasion. Clearing.
2-5, this is Trinity Sword Actual. Is anyone hurt? Confirm hostile fire, over.
Trinity Sword, no injuries. We confirm 8 to 10 rounds of airburst from the northernmost group of Iranian small craft. Over.
Ocean Lord, this is Trinity Sword Actual. Return immediately to Vincennes cover. Close Ocean Lord's position at best speed, bearing 330.
Under the U.S. rules of engagement, Captain Rogers is allowed to respond with force in self-defense.
0, full speed.
Set general quarters.
Officer of the deck, set general quarters.
The situation is escalating rapidly.
General quarters, all hands man your battle stations.
When we went to general quarters, all of the hatches had to be tightened down. Everything had to be at a certain level of defense in case something happened.
Once you get to that station, you're supposed to, you don your helmet and your gas mask. Nobody's allowed to move around the ship. You're to stay at your battle stations doing your job.
Only 6.5 minutes after Rogers calls general quarters, the Vincennes is ready for combat. The crew have practiced the drill many times, but today it's for real. By chance, a Navy media crew is on the bridge filming as the ship surges north at over 30 knots. Captain Rogers is now heading for a lethal confrontation with the Iranian gunboats. It will be the Vincennes' first time in action. The outcome will be catastrophic. July the 3rd, 1988. The USS Vincennes powers north towards the Strait of Hormuz. Another US ship has reported aggressive activity by Iranian gunboats. Those boats have already fired on the Vincennes helicopter.
Jesus!
Captain Will Rogers III has been in the Gulf for just over a month, but he's already established a reputation as a commander who is prepared to take robust action. His ship is nicknamed the Robo-Cruiser.
The deck, set general quarters.
Meanwhile, some 87 kilometers away at Iran's Bandar Abbas airport, Iran Air Flight 655 is waiting to push back for a routine 28-minute hop across the Strait of Hormuz to Dubai. 37-year-old Mohsen Rasayan is the captain. His brother Hossein knows he's dedicated to the job.
655 standing by for ATC clearance.
He was very enjoying what he was doing. He really liked it. He was logging so many hours, over 10,000 hours of flight.
Request update on status of IR.
Captain Rasayan's flight is delayed. It's 27 minutes behind schedule due to a passenger with immigration problems. The holdup will soon confuse the crew of Vincennes, despite all their sophisticated technology. On the bridge, a Navy media crew continues to film as the Vincennes closes within striking distance of the Iranian boghammer gunboats.
About 3 degrees, under city course 015 I. We're about 3 degrees, so course 015. Got a visual on the boghammer between us. See it?
Even though his helicopter has already been shot at, Captain Rogers only has the authority to open fire if he believes his ship is under direct threat. In the Gulf haze, it's hard to see just what the gunboats are doing.
One appears to be going up to starboard and one's in the middle.
Just off the starboard bow has a machine gun on it, according to 6.
But Captain Rogers doesn't have to wait for the gunboats to open fire. If they behave aggressively, that's reason enough for him to take the first shot.
Coming inbound fast. 1 at 350 is inbound.
As they turn and begin to maneuver and close us fairly high speed and on erratic courses, we asked permission to fire a warning shot.
This is Vincennes. Request permission to engage Boghammer Group.
The surface commander for the Gulf is on board his ship in Bahrain. Captain Richard McKenna has no hesitation in granting permission.
The fact that the helicopter was shot at virtually required a response.
Vincent, this is Gulf Sierra. Take Boghammer Group with guns.
The rules of engagement at that juncture were quite clear, and so there was no question as to what was required at that juncture.
I say again, take Boghammer Group with guns, over.
Gulf Sierra, this is Vincennes. Opening fire with guns. Assumed hostile track 4456. Vincennes out. You can fire for effect.
And it's making track with guns.
It's 9:43 a.m. A routine encounter in the Persian Gulf has become deadly serious.
The ship shakes. It's a 5-inch gun. I mean, there's a lot of powder behind it to propel that projectile.
Oh man, he's right behind him. 300.
This is the first time that the crew of the Vincennes have ever seen action.
It's a 028 now.
Combat was, that was the furthest thing probably from any of us. Even though we were a combat ship, it was one of those things. It's like, it'll never happen to us, but yet it did.
The gunboats are now shooting back, but their fire is falling well short. The Vincennes and the Montgomery take them on together. The battle is fast-moving, with frequent changes of course.
We were maneuvering rapidly because, in the first place, my desire was to keep them at arm's length, if you will. We were shifting targets as rapidly as we could, and Montgomery at the same time was directed to engage a small craft, which he did.
Verify me rounds to the tray.
The Vincennes and the Montgomery are now locked in a full-scale sea battle. Anything that approaches the U.S. ships will be assessed as a possible threat.
Battery released, 10 rounds, weapons.
Lieutenant Commander Scott Lustig is the officer responsible for alerting the captain to potential airborne threats. He's been tracking an aircraft that has suddenly changed course and is now heading towards the Vincennes.
4472, Iranian P-3, range 62 miles.
The plane has been identified as an Iranian P-3 Orion, a long-range maritime surveillance aircraft. In a well-rehearsed procedure, the Vincennes warns the P-3 on a military frequency that he's being tracked.
Speed 270, this is United States Naval Warship. Request you state your intentions.
U.S. Warship, this is Iranian Papa 3. Our intention is search mission. We keep clear of your unit.
The pilot promises to keep his distance, but Captain Rogers knows the P-3 is still watching him on radar. He's concerned that it could call in an Iranian airstrike. This battle is becoming more dangerous by the minute.
Okay, I want rounds in the tray. Give me a firing solution for that northernmost group of boghammers. Scott, keep me updated on the P-3.
Meanwhile, with all his passengers finally on board, Captain Rizian is ready to depart.
Confirm, taxi V5 is open.
Iran Air 655.
On the 3rd of July, there are 10 civilian flights scheduled from Bandar Abbas. But the Iranian Air Force also uses this airport. US intelligence has warned that the recent transfer of F-14 fighters here represents an increased threat.
Have a nice flight.
655 cleared for takeoff.
Captain Razayan has no way of knowing that Iran Air 655 is heading directly towards a raging sea battle. Within seconds of liftoff, the Vincennes detects Flight 655. Sophisticated as the radar is, it cannot determine the size or type of aircraft. Identification Supervisor Anderson begins a routine to establish whether the aircraft is a friend or foe. His first step is to use a system called IFF.
All large aircraft have IFF. They all have identification friend or foe. Every aircraft has its own code, and you're able to look up that code and say, okay, it does give you more information.
Anderson sets out to identify the IFF signal of this incoming track. At the press of a button, an electronic pulse radiates into the atmosphere, and aircraft transponders automatically bounce back an electronic reply, squawking the signature modes and codes that reveal whether the aircraft is a friend or foe. Modes 1, 2, and 4 indicate military aircraft. Iran Air 655 has squawked Mode 3.
Everybody has Mode 3. So that alone doesn't identify a non-hostile aircraft. It could be civilian, it could be military.
As a military aircraft could conceal its identity by squawking Mode 3, Anderson's next step is to consult a commercial air schedule. He looks to see if there's a passenger flight due to depart from Bandar Abbas at this time. But he finds nothing.
Unidentified Iranian aircraft on course 203, speed 303 knots, altitude 4,000 feet. This is United States.
So the Vincennes now tries to contact the plane directly on a military distress frequency.
40 miles from you. You are approaching United States naval warship in international waters. Request you state your intentions. Over.
But there's no response. For all its state-of-the-art technology, the Vincennes doesn't have a radio tuned to civil air traffic control frequencies.
Unidentified aircraft on course 206, speed.
So the only option left is for the ship to call the mystery aircraft on the civilian international air distress frequency.
East. You are approaching a United States naval warship. Request you remain clear.
But there's still no answer from Flight 655. With the incoming plane closing in on the Vincennes at 8 kilometers every minute, Anderson is now alarmed to discover its IFF signal appears to have changed. The plane is squawking both Mode 3 and Mode 2, 1100. When Anderson consults his code list, he makes a disturbing discovery. The 1100 suggests that this plane could be an Iranian F-14 fighter.
All stations IDS, I have a possible Mode 2 on track 4131, 1100, which breaks as an F-14.
Possible Mode 2.
Breaking as an F-14.
I repeat, incoming Mode 2.
Anderson's words spread like wildfire throughout the CIC. The aircraft is now labeled as an F-14 fighter on the tactical displays in front of Captain Rogers. 48 kilometers away, the Airbus with its 290 passengers climbs out over the Persian Gulf. They have no idea that they've been misidentified and are flying into danger. An Iranian passenger jet heading for Dubai is unknowingly flying directly towards a US warship engaged in battle in the Strait of Hormuz. On board the USS Vincennes, Identification Supervisor Anderson thinks the airliner is an Iranian fighter jet.
Which breaks as an F-14.
Possible Mode 2.
In the Combat Information Center, Flight 655 is now labeled as a hostile F-14. In the 1970s, the US sold 80 F-14s to their then ally, the Shah of Iran. They are the most up-to-date fighter in the Iranian Air Force. The Vincennes crew think they're under attack.
My heartbeat was way up, my blood pressure was way up. It was like, wow. I mean, the adrenaline was just flowing.
Lieutenant Commander Scott Lustig is Captain William Rogers' anti-air warfare coordinator. With the incoming plane only 45 kilometers away, he seeks permission from headquarters to shoot it down if it comes too close.
My position, my intention is to engage at 20 nautical miles if he does not turn away. Do you concur? Over.
You should warn aircraft first, then take it under fire.
You start crossing 20 miles, and it's an absolute threat to the ship. You're out there in the middle of the ocean. It's serious business.
The pressure on Captain Rogers is mounting. But at this critical moment, just when he should be focusing on this new threat, his attention is drawn back to the battle with the gunboats.
We've got a foul bore down here.
Captain, we have a situation with Mount 51.
In the midst of combat, the Vincennes' forward 5-inch gun has jammed.
Full rudder turn.
Bridge, CIC.
Hard to port. Steady ship's course. 280 degrees, maintain speed.
That's 25 knots.
Rogers is forced to turn his ship at high speed, swinging the cruiser's rear gun around to face the incoming fire.
Right, standard.
The ship leans, so if anything was not tied down, it of course went everywhere. It went sliding off, up against the wall. It turned sharp enough that if you were standing, you had to hold on to something to keep from falling over.
Bring aft gun to bear now.
As Captain Rogers struggles to keep the gunboats engaged, Captain Rizian is busy with the routines of climbing to cruising altitude.
FIR 58, Dubai 0715.
Confirm you are squawking 6760.
Affirmative.
Confirmation that his aircraft is transmitting the correct civilian IFF code, so that it can be easily identified on radar. In the Vincennes Combat Information Center, Lieutenant William Mountford sees that the approaching plane is now squawking a Mode 3 IFF response. He thinks it may not be a military aircraft after all.
Sir, possible calm air.
Captain Rogers acknowledges the warning, but he's still concerned by the plane's failure to respond.
The aircraft was warned a number of times, continued to close. Time is a demon here. If I have a long time to sort things out, you're going to take more time to look at this and more time to look at that.
Unidentified aircraft on
As Flight 655 crosses the critical 37-kilometer threshold, the Vincennes warns it once again to alter course or risk the consequences.
01, 20 miles from you. You are standing into danger and may be subject to United States defensive measures. Request you remain clear of me.
Captain Rogers now has the authority to shoot the plane down.
Captain, do you wish to engage at 20 miles? Captain, do you wish to engage the target at 20 miles?
I had difficulty at 20 miles. I just did not want to shoot. I could not believe that this was really happening to us.
Captain, do you wish to engage the target at 20 miles?
Negative.
Captain Rogers has delayed firing, hoping that the plane will finally respond to the Vincennes' warnings. But what happens next destroys that faint hope. Petty Officer Leach is the Vincennes' tactical information coordinator. He's responsible for ensuring that all air contacts are properly tracked. What he reports now seems to remove any doubts. This is a hostile aircraft.
Altitude declining.
They see the plane diving towards them, a classic attack profile.
Now you're in real serious business because anything can happen at that point. Whether that aircraft might launch something at you, it could be the aircraft itself. 15 miles, that's pretty close and pretty serious.
Iranian aircraft on course 211, speed
Track 4131 approaching 13 nautical miles.
United States naval warship operating in international waters.
Wait a minute. I could be dead. the tension is just continually rising during this whole time. Everybody was on edge. Everybody was like, oh my God, what's going to happen next?
Subject to United States defense measures.
Inbound air contact, closing and descending 1,000 feet per mile. Range 13 miles.
Oh my God, it's getting closer. It's getting closer. What's the captain going to do? What's going to happen? You know, what are they going to do?
Iran Air 655 now signs off with Bandar Abbas Air Traffic Control.
8.4. Have a nice flight.
Thank you. Good day.
God damn it, he's getting close.
Mark, incoming bog hammer, bearing 042.
Air contact still inbound, increasing speed and descending, range 11 miles.
Captain Rogers' worst fear is that the Vincennes might face the same fate as another ship, the USS Stark. A year earlier, an Iraqi fighter launched 2 Exocet missiles at it. 37 sailors were killed, and the ship nearly lost. An inquiry blamed the incident on failures in command. The Stark had not defended itself. Its captain was reprimanded and allowed to resign from the Navy.
Captain, air contact still inbound, increasing speed and descending, range 11 miles.
Captain Rogers isn't about to make the same mistake.
Time is a demon here. At some point in time, you have to make the decision. When the aircraft reached a little over 10 miles, at that point in time, I either make the decision then or I don't make it at all, because I reached minimum weapons range.
It's the moment of truth. Captain Rogers turns his fire authorization key.
Take order, track 4131.
Do I have a take order on the contact?
Yes, take.
Birds away. Rails clear.
Iranian aircraft on course 209, speed 353 knots.
As the final warning goes out on the military air distress frequency, Rogers keeps his finger on the hold fire button so he can destroy the missiles if the aircraft finally responds.
Estimate 10 seconds to intercept.
Up on the bridge, the crew has confirmed the kill. The plane they believed was attacking them has been destroyed. Captain Rogers thinks he has saved his ship from destruction. Nothing could be further from the truth. Far from saving his crew, Rogers has just made a decision that will shock the world.
God damn it, he's getting close.
At the height of a naval battle with Iranian gunboats in the Persian Gulf, the USS Vincennes has detected an incoming aircraft.
Take order, track 4131.
In the ship's combat information center, that plane has been misidentified as an Iranian F-14 fighter. After the plane has failed to respond to warnings, Captain William Rogers has shot it down. But Rogers has made a fatal mistake. He's destroyed an Iranian passenger jet flying in an international air corridor. 290 passengers and crew are dead. Iranian television broadcasts distressing footage of their bodies floating in the Gulf. For Captain Rogers, the burden is heavy. Whatever mistakes have been made, he bears the ultimate responsibility. But for the victims' families, it's worse. Captain Rezaian's elder brother Hossein tries to identify his remains in a temporary mortuary in Bandar Abbas.
I try not to imagine where I went to. I try to forget it, and when I look at those bodies, I just can't control myself, and I just try to think about something else, not to think of what I saw.
Captain Rezaian's body is never recovered.
Really, I'm shattered. Our family, especially his kids, his wife, my parents, which they're still living, and there is not a day that they don't talk about this, of what happened, why it should have happened.
There's an immediate international outcry. The world wants to know how a cruiser with a state-of-the-art combat system could have mistaken a passenger airliner for an attacking Iranian fighter.
Captain, do you swear that the evidence you are giving in this matter, now an investigation...
The US government appoints Rear Admiral William Fogarty to conduct an inquiry to find out what went wrong.
My first reaction was, it was a tragedy. The thing that stuck the most to me was, you've got a lot of responsibilities ahead of you, Fogarty, and probably some sleepless nights.
And nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
The inquiry is conducted in accord with the Uniform Code of Military Justice. The stakes are high. Investigative journalist Roger Charles is a former Marine officer who's examined the story.
You're looking at a guy who's on top of the world. He's the captain of the billion-dollar Aegis cruiser, and now he's sitting at a table facing possible court-martial and even prison time.
Admiral Fogarty's team now scrutinizes the actions of the Vincennes crew in forensic detail. When Flight 655 first appears on radar, the USS Vincennes is in the midst of a battle with Iranian gunboats. All aircraft within a radius of 100 kilometers are monitored to ensure they do not pose a threat. So Identification Supervisor Anderson starts by checking his commercial air schedule to determine if this is a passenger flight. But he's confused. The schedule lists departures in local time, but Anderson is unsure whether that means the time in Bandar Abbas or Bahrain time, which is used on the ship.
You have the almost 30-minute delay caused by the late departure of IRR 655 due to a passenger with a visa problem. Then you have the 30-minute different time zone. So he looks at it and he's seeing there's nobody within an hour scheduled to be over us.
The IFF system is supposed to distinguish friend from foe. Admiral Fogarty knows it's critical to establish how the Vincennes could have confused a commercial airliner squawking Mode 3 with a fighter emitting Mode 2.
And in your mind, that was not COM air?
In my mind, sir, it was not a COM air.
And why?
Because I had saw that Mode 2 squawk, sir.
The Mode 2 was the big indicator for you?
Yes, sir.
From intelligence, Fogarty discovers that as Flight 655 prepares for takeoff, an Iranian F-14 is also on the tarmac at Bandar Abbas. It now appears that although Anderson rolls his ball tab to hook Flight 655 as it takes off, he leaves it hooked for almost 90 seconds. So although the hook symbol moves towards the Vincennes, the system is still reading IFF signals from the airport at Bandar Abbas. It's a human error caused by poor design on this high-tech warship.
He left the ball tab on Bandar Abbas. So what we believe happened, and I'm pretty sure this is exactly what happened, he picked up the Mode 2 of the Iranian fighter that was getting ready for takeoff behind the Airbus.
The identification of an F-14 appears to confirm intelligence, warning Captain Rogers to anticipate trouble over the July the 4th weekend. He now believes the aircraft is part of a coordinated strike on the Vincennes from both sea and air.
Sir, possible calm air.
So he places less weight on the warning that the incoming plane is possibly a commercial airliner.
Do you recall Lieutenant Montfort saying, calm air, calm air?
I absolutely remember him telling me that, and I think I raised my hand or something to that effect to indicate that I'd heard him.
You held up your decision to fire.
Yes, sir.
Why?
I wanted every bit of information I could get. IFF was an indicator, but I didn't care whether 1100 was an F-14 or that Falker that flies around out there. But at this point, I thought they always talk to us.
Iranian aircraft on course 211.
The Vincennes transmits a total of 10 radio warnings. Why does Flight 655 never respond?
What we do know for sure is the aircraft did not respond to the warnings. He had to have something, he being the commanding officer, as proof that this was commercial air. He never got that.
Unidentified Iranian aircraft on course 20.
But the Vincennes transmits 7 warnings on a military frequency that Flight 655 cannot receive.
The Airbus did not even have a radio that was set or could accept the military air distress frequency. I mean, it's just not something they had. They had no need for it. They were a commercial airplane.
The Vincennes broadcasts only 3 warnings on the civil distress frequency. But they don't clearly identify exactly who the ship is trying to contact.
Unidentified aircraft on course 210, speed 350, altitude.
The Vincennes radio talkers are citing the aircraft's ground speed.
Bearing 201, 20 miles from you. You are standing into danger and may be subject to United States defensive measures.
But Captain Razayan's instruments show airspeed, a relative measurement. Flight 655's indicated airspeed could have been 50 knots slower than the 350-knot ground speed cited by the Vincennes.
So if the pilot hears that, well, who are they talking to? They haven't identified us. They must be talking to maybe the P-3 or maybe some other Iranian aircraft.
Throughout its flight, Iran Air 655 transmits its squawk code, the unique label that tells radars what flight it is. If the Vincennes had called out that squawk code, Captain Razayan could have known immediately they were talking to him. But the US Navy does not require its radio operators to use this code when talking to civilian aircraft. As Flight 655 nears his ship,
Captain, do you wish to engage at 20 miles?
The pressure on Captain Rogers becomes intense.
Captain, do you wish to engage the target at 20 miles?
When you look at the time window that he had, he waited till the very last minute. And it becomes a point of, am I going to shoot or am I not going to shoot and wait, in which case he would not be following his responsibilities to protect his ship and his crew.
The decisive factor in Captain Rogers' decision to fire are the reports he receives that the plane is descending towards him, apparently about to attack.
Altitude declining.
It's the crucial moment. The inquiry team presses Tactical Information Coordinator Leach on his call.
Okay. Were you reporting descending elevations over the net?
Over the internal net? Yes, sir.
So in other words, when you saw that track, that aircraft start descending, you were reporting that up to TAO, CO, Gulf Whiskey?
Yes, sir.
Like an aircraft's black box, the Vincennes computers have recorded all the data on the Combat Information Center's screens. Those records show that Iran Air 655 had never descended.
It was, in fact, ascending the whole time. That was a revelation that we had not anticipated.
Altitude declining.
Is it possible that somebody, although the data showed perhaps that it was going up, would say it's going down, descending?
Fogarty sends a medical team, including a psychiatrist, to the Vincennes. They report that a condition called scenario fulfillment could have played a part in the tragedy.
Range 13 miles.
And as it turns out, where you believe something so badly is going to happen, that whether the data shows you it's not the case, you believe it's happening.
Had those in command on that day checked their monitors, they would have seen that Flight 655 was not diving in a classic attack profile, but was continuing its steady climb. Yet no one thought to do so.
Well, Scott, we have this disparity between what the data indicates happened and what the people said they saw at their various altitudes. Any idea why?
Well, sir, the disparity baffles me. I thought about this for many days now, and I came to the realization that this data to me doesn't mean anything because I reacted to people I had operated with who were reliable. And when they reported at short range, they had decreasing altitude, increasing speed. I had no reason to doubt them. I had to make a split-second recommendation to the commanding officer, and I did.
So Lieutenant Commander Lustig trusts his men's judgment, and Captain Rogers trusts Lieutenant Commander Lustig's.
My confidence in Lieutenant Commander Lustig confirmed to me that the aircraft was, in fact, a threat. At 9 miles, I felt I could no longer delay defensive action. I granted firing permission.
When I looked at the timeline that he had to make a decision and the information he was given upon which to make that decision, it was my feeling, to this day I still feel the same way, that he made the right decision with the main thing in his mind: I don't want my ship to get hit.
Take order, track 4131.
The Vincennes' sophisticated combat information system gives its crew accurate information, but their fear has created a threat where none exists. After a month, Admiral Fogarty's investigation is over. He finds that the downing of Iran Air 655 was not the result of any negligent or culpable conduct by any US naval personnel. Captain Rogers acted in a prudent manner, given the information available to him and the short time frame in which he had to make his critical decision. Fogarty says Iran must share the responsibility for hazarding one of their civilian airliners in close proximity to hostilities. The US government publishes an edited version of Admiral Fogarty's inquiry, but it has concealed one key fact from the world. That fact will cast a whole new light on the tragedy of Iran Air Flight 655. In August 1988, a detailed inquiry by Admiral William Fogarty into the shooting down of Iran Air 655 concludes that the captain and crew of the USS Vincennes acted properly in the face of what they believed was a threat to their ship. But investigative journalist Roger Charles is not convinced. He reads a copy of the Fogarty inquiry and wonders why it contains no map showing the Vincennes' position.
I knew the fact that there was no such chart in the Fogarty report, again, was a signal, and a curious signal to me. Why is it not there?
Skipper, you better come down. Sounds like the Montgomery's got her nose in a beehive.
I'll be right there.
When Captain Rogers first hears that Iranian gunboats are harassing merchant shipping, the Vincennes is well south of the Montgomery and destined for port in Bahrain.
Gulf Sierra, this is Vincennes. Request permission to support USS Montgomery against surface contacts. Over.
Rogers asks Captain Richard McKenna, his surface commander, for permission to turn north to support the Montgomery. But McKenna only authorizes him to send his helicopter to investigate.
Roger that. Vincennes out. Vector in, Ocean Lord.
But Captain McKenna is later startled to discover that the Vincennes has turned around and has closed on the Montgomery's position. He orders him to leave the helicopter in place and turn back immediately.
My own personal opinion is it really did feel that they were looking for action when they went to see the Elmer Montgomery. My own feeling is that the situation was not out of control. It was really my call, and yet, even though they were assigned another station, they took it upon themselves to be there. And to that extent, I feel that, you know, I mean, that's where the general feeling, and not just my own, comes that maybe they were looking for trouble.
Jesus! Trinity Lord, this is Ocean Lord 2-5. We are taking...
But once the Iranian gunboats fired upon the Vincennes helicopter, the situation changed.
Close Ocean Lord's position at best speed.
The rules of engagement now allow Captain Rogers to respond with force.
General quarters.
Officer of the...
He's now authorized to head off in hot pursuit of the gunboats. But where does that lead him? In 1990, Roger Charles obtains a copy of a restricted report on the destruction of Iran Air 655 by the International Civil Aviation Organization. It gives the Vincennes coordinates. When Charles plots them on a chart, he makes a startling discovery. At the time of the shootdown, the Vincennes is over 4 kilometers inside Iranian territorial waters. By chasing the gunboats back into Iranian territory, Rogers inadvertently places his ship directly in the flight path of Iran Air 655.
If Rogers had not taken the Vincennes up to attack the gunboats, there would have been no shootdown of IR 655. I mean, that's clear. There would have been no ongoing surface action. Rogers would have had his radar screen set for the air side of things. The focus would have only been on the air picture. They would have had plenty of time to make a proper determination that this was a commercial airliner.
Despite the tragedy, the crew of the Vincennes receive a hero's welcome on their return to port in San Diego.
Any ship in the Navy is a multi-mission ship.
Captain, do you wish to engage the target at 20 miles?
Lieutenant Commander Scott Lustig is awarded a Navy Commendation Medal for his ability to maintain his poise and confidence under fire.
Take order, track 4131.
Captain Rogers receives the Legion of Merit for his performance as commanding officer of the Vincennes. Both men have since retired from the Navy. Every year, the families of those who died on Iran Air 655 commemorate their loss in the Persian Gulf. For Hussein Rezaian, the brother of Flight 655's captain, time has not healed the wounds.
I still feel the same way. Although I try to keep myself busy, not to think about it, because it's still, I mean, it's an unforgettable human tragedy. Even after 17 years passed, the horrors of what went on in that day, you know, still lingers on in everybody's life.
In a world where technology grows ever more sophisticated, fear, the most basic of human instincts, can create the greatest tragedies. A shipwreck in the Greek islands. Hundreds of people fight for survival in a swirling storm. With their lives on the line, some people become heroes. Others do whatever it takes to stay alive.
Keep her away! She'll kill us both!
Investigators uncover an extraordinary chain of events. Small mistakes which have deadly consequences.
Mayday! Mayday! We're doing 90 miles an hour! Out of control! Take a life jacket! Where's the Coast Guard? Don't let go!
A passenger ferry pushes its way through a storm.
What is that?
Within sight of land, this Greek island's ferry is sinking in high winds and stormy seas.
There was a hole, and it was going to sink, and it was going to sink fast.
A huge rescue operation kicks in. Rescuers must risk their own lives.
I never want to be in that situation ever again, because it was terrifying.
But I had enough time to think, okay, well, this is the part where I die.
It was like a catastrophe. It was as if it was coming the end of the world for this island.
For the people of Greece, it's a national disaster, the worst of its kind in 30 years. Discovering why it happened will take months of detective work and raise this question: how safe are the ships we sail on? The Greek capital, Athens. This great metropolis has a 3,000-year history. A history built around the city's easy access to the Mediterranean. The harbor district of Athens is called Piraeus. Ferry boats ply back and forth between here and the more than 200 islands scattered throughout the Aegean Sea. For island hoppers, this is where the adventure begins.
It's here somewhere. It has to be.
Mayday today would be good.
I'm hurrying. Are you sure you don't got...
Tuesday, September the 26th, 2000. Christine Shannon and Heidi Hart from Seattle are close friends. They've bought tickets for a ferry ride to the island of Paros, 166 kilometers to the southeast.
Express, Samina?
Express sounds good. How long is it?
Christine's 32 and teaches preschool. Heidi's 26 and just graduated from college. She wants to go into business management. It's been a crazy kind of day. They'd planned on going to the island of Santorini, further south.
I have it. Okay, let's go.
We have to hurry.
Now I have the tickets. Let's go.
Rushing.
We'd been enjoying Athens the night before a little too much, and we overslept and missed our Santorini boat.
I had never heard of Paros. I even asked them, well, show me on a map where the island is, and then I said, never mind, it doesn't matter, let's just go. It's the next boat, let's go somewhere. So it was a fluke that we were on that boat.
Here's where chance is steering them. It could be a whole lot worse. If you dream of a Greek getaway, Paros is just what the guidebooks promise. Life is laid back, and the backdrop is enchanting. Around 12,000 people live on Paros year-round. In tourist season, add to that 100,000 visitors. Ferries from Athens head for the harbor in the main town, Perikea. There's constant traffic back and forth to the mainland. As one boat's leaving, another one shows up, bringing hundreds more eager visitors. Christine and Heidi are among 472 passengers who board the Samina today. As they get ready to embark, one thing becomes clear. Some of the boats on the island's run are modern, newly built. But the Samina comes from a different era. She's been crisscrossing the Mediterranean since 1966. The Samina was launched before these two were born. And though they don't realize it, Greek safety laws say that in little over a year, the Samina will be pulled out of service and sent to the scrapyard.
I made a few jokes to Christine about the lifeboats don't look very safe if we get into trouble out here. I said we'll be screwed.
And I said, well, there's no icebergs in the Aegean, so we should be okay.
The Samina can carry more than 1,000 passengers, along with her 61 crew. So today, the ship's less than half full. Katrina Stark and her cousin Sarah Davis, both from New Zealand, are backpacking.
So that means we have to be headed
Like Heidi and Christine, they're literally sailing into the unknown.
Paros. We had no plans. We went to get on the very first ferry that was leaving, going wherever it was going to take us, and that happened to be first stop Paros.
At 7:15, 2 hours into the journey, the sun is setting. There are still 3 hours to kill before the Samina arrives. The sports fans on board, passengers and crew, know just how they'd like to spend the time. There's a major soccer game playing live on TV. Athens' star side Panathinaikos are up against their German rivals, Hamburg.
The reception wasn't very good, and so they had various staff come along trying to fix the TV, and everyone was putting suggestions to how to fix the TV, and it seemed to be quite important to everybody on board that they get to see this game.
At 8 p.m., the Samina passes the island of Kithnos. They're on schedule to reach Paros at around 10:15. The wind is rising, the sea is growing rougher, but these northerly winds, known as the Meltemi, are frequent at this time of year. The Samina has weathered conditions much worse than this over the past 3 decades.
I'm gonna take a nap!
Heidi and Christine are the only people left outside. They think their tickets don't allow them to go in.
Wake me when we're there!
I said, we have third-class tickets, we have to stay out on the deck. It's gonna be a cold, wet, terrible night. But I didn't even think to go downstairs where most of the people on the boat were.
For the crew of the Samina, the nighttime journey is routine. Hazards such as reefs and rocks are all clearly marked on their charts. Many have warning lights. 2 jagged outcrops rise from the sea within sight of the main harbor on Paros, Perikia Bay. Known as the Portes, or the Gates, they lie 5.5 kilometers from the town. For every mariner sailing these waters, the Gates of Paros are a familiar landmark. They're welcoming, but dangerous too. The rocks rise 25 meters out of the sea. Every passing ship must give them a wide clearance. At night, a beacon light on the taller of the 2 rocks sends a clear warning to sailors. Stray too close to the Gates of Paros, and disaster will follow. They're still 2 hours away. But they're sailing into a growing storm. Despite the weather, Christine and Heidi are still out in the open.
Had I known we could go to any other part of the boat at that point in time, I would have. But I didn't know, and actually being in that part of the boat, I think, was very fortuitous for us because we were able to be aware of what was going on later.
Being out on the deck will help save their lives. Soon, everyone aboard will be fighting for survival. On the evening of September the 26th, 2000, The passenger ferry Express Samina leaves Athens harbor, Piraeus, heading southeast. She's making for the island of Paros, 5 hours away in the Aegean Sea. As the sun sets, the weather deteriorates until by nightfall the ship is being buffeted by a northerly gale. But the crew are used to such conditions. Their ship is big enough, tough enough to survive far worse. The Samina is 115 meters long, more than a soccer field, and 18 meters wide. Passengers are widely dispersed. Heidi and Christine are out on the open deck. Katrina and Sarah are inside the main passenger lounge. The nerve center is here, the engine room. It's below the waterline, but is protected by a series of watertight doors. The crew need to move about, but the ship is safe so long as they lock the doors tight behind them. To reduce the rolling effect of the waves, the ship also has a stabilizing system, like small wings that extend out into the water. It's still a bumpy ride, but it doesn't stop passengers moving about when they want to.
As we got further away and night began to fall, the seas got rougher and it became stormy until it got to the point where you couldn't even walk on board. You had to kind of stumble sideways. People were kind of laughing. It was kind of funny at the time.
Being from a place where we ride ferries quite often, it wasn't really a concern to us at the time, but it was pretty rough out there.
It's 10 p.m. The wind has now risen to nearly 50 kilometers an hour. Waves are cresting 2 meters high. Despite the gale, visibility is good. Those are the lights of Paros. The Samina's on time and still pushing forward at 33 kilometers an hour. Then suddenly, the ship lurches sharply to the left.
What's that? I don't know.
The boat turned enough that it startled me awake, and I woke up and was kind of dazed a little bit.
You can't just park a boat like you're parking a car, and so I thought it was odd that I felt this G-force of the boat turning.
Christine said, "Hey, there's lights. I see shore. We must be getting pretty close to docking."
The lights of Parikia, even car headlights, are clearly visible just 5.5 kilometers away. But then another light cuts through the darkness.
This rock just comes out of nowhere, just out of the black night. And I'll never forget what it looks like in my mind. It was, you know, this brown, kind of craggly, sandish looking rock that had lights on top of it shining down so it illuminated it. And it made it look like a movie set. The side of the boat scraped along the side. I could have walked over and touched it. And you could hear down in the lower decks of the boat that the metal was just ripping apart.
The unthinkable has happened. The Samina has crashed against the gates of Paros. 1 million kilos of ship grind against the rocks.
It was the worst sound, and it was the loudest sound I've ever heard in my life. It sounded like fingernails on a chalkboard, just God's fingernail on the biggest chalkboard in the world.
There was a hole, and it was gonna sink, and it was gonna sink fast.
The shockwave reverberates through the ship.
Suddenly there was a big lurch to the right side of the boat, and people who were standing up got thrown off their feet. Everything in the bar smashed. I looked out the window and there were 2 large rocks went past that looked white, lit up by the light inside the ship.
I don't know what that was. Oh, man, it just doesn't sound good, you know?
In a situation like this, the time frame is so hard to put back together. But it seemed like maybe a minute or two until the boat started to noticeably lilt to the side and tip. And that's kind of when the chaos started.
Get out of this place!
I am supposed to run to get off this ship!
Lots of people were crying, lots of people were praying, holding on to each other, yelling. There was no alarm or siren, there was no one to tell us what we were supposed to do.
We need to get off this boat and we need to leave right now!
We don't have to panic!
Christine said to me the Titanic took hours to sink. And I said, we don't have that much time.
We don't have hours, Christine! We need to leave now!
Okay.
In my mind, I thought, this boat's gonna sink and we're all gonna die.
All these people trying to get life jackets. Being taller, I was able to reach over the heads of most people who were trying to get hold of life jackets and grab two.
The Samina has 61 crew members, but where are they? Passengers must fend for themselves.
So I yelled to Christine, come here, I think I found life vest.
Hey, doesn't open up! Just take it out!
At this point, people were starting to run past us. And I was saying, here, take these, and throwing them out, and people were just panicking.
Within minutes of the collision, the ship's lights go out. Passengers are plunged into darkness until emergency generators kick in.
And then the first flare went off. This eerie red glow coming down over the ferry gave it a whole nother feeling of just terror that we're out in the night, in the dark, and the ferry's gonna sink.
At the harbor, port officials are now aware of the developing crisis. Port Authority Vice Commander Dimitrios Malamas starts to organize a rescue. He needs all available boats right now.
What vessels do we have in the area?
Alexis Bisbas runs a yacht charter business in Pareikia.
The first I heard of the disaster was a phone call that I got from the port police at about 10:15. Can I get out there with my boat as quickly as possible just to help with whatever might be necessary? And there was no way that we had any idea that it was going to be a disaster of that magnitude.
Paros has a medical center equipped for the islanders' basic needs, not a major disaster. Dr. John Polyzoides was an ER surgeon for 35 years. Though retired, he helps run the center.
We saw the ship was going down, and there were a lot of boats and lights and so on. I personally did not expect anything tragic to come out of that because we were so close also to the harbor.
Aboard the Samina, many of the 472 passengers are in a state of sheer terror.
It was chaos. It was people not knowing what to do and waiting for a captain or a crew to help us.
There was a woman who went through the door just before us, and she, as soon as she got out onto the deck, she climbed over the railings and just jumped off, like didn't look back or didn't say anything to anybody, and just climbed over and threw herself off into the water.
There was people holding children over the railings, wanting to throw them down to people in the water. It was quite a terrible scene.
The wind hampers efforts to abandon ship.
They were releasing inflatable life rafts. They weren't attached to the ship, so as soon as it was released, it was in a big storm, it would get picked up by the wind as soon as it was inflated, and they were just blowing halfway to Athens.
The rafts blow beyond the reach of many passengers who've already leapt into the sea. In the confusion, Heidi Hart is knocked flying, striking her head.
I kept thinking, if I black out now, I'm done for. This boat's sinking. I have to stay conscious. I had this adrenaline rush, and there was, a feeling that I would call terror. I knew instantly this was going to be a fight for our lives.
There was some point in time where I literally felt myself leave my body and instincts kicked in.
Everybody was running to the rear of the boat, and Christine just looked at me and said,
"Go that way, to the front of the boat." And she said, "But nobody's up there." It was the darkest part of the boat. It was the highest part of the boat. She said, "Nobody's up there." I said, "I don't care, go."
And luckily for us, that's where we found a lifeboat hanging over the side of the ship.
Heidi and Christine have escaped the sinking ship, but they're still at the mercy of the storm.
When we jumped into the lifeboat, it wasn't orderly, here's your seat. It was jump. Where you land is where you are, and so we were just kind of all pig-piled in this lifeboat together.
The battle for survival takes an ugly turn. Each passenger must decide, help others or fend for themselves.
There was 5 or 6 men in the back of the boat, and they were fighting with each other. They were yelling at each other. As the ferry was sinking, they kept pointing at the ferry and fighting with each other. And then, you know, this is when I see the guy swimming up to the boat, and so I started getting ready. I'm thinking, okay, I need a rope. I gotta throw him something. He has no life vest on. The only thing you could see was his eyes and his nose coming out of the water, and he was just barely making it, swimming towards us.
Everybody else on the boat was yelling, "No, no, we can't take any more people on."
I've got you, don't worry! I've got you!
Now Heidi leaned over and grabbed this gentleman's hand, and I reached over and grabbed her by the waist, and she told me, "I'm not letting go," and I yelled to the other people, "She's not letting go."
He had taken off almost all of his clothes. He was wearing just his underwear. I mean, I'm not a very big person. I'm 5 feet tall. Just me trying to pull him in the boat wasn't gonna work.
The men in the lifeboat realize that Heidi won't let go and finally help haul the drowning man on board.
I don't know what they were thinking. They were panicking. So, I mean, who am I to judge what other people were thinking and doing? But there was a lot more that could have been done that night.
Of the 533 people who set out on the Samina, many are now in the sea. Others are still trapped on the vessel itself. The ship begins to roll over. If it goes down, dozens of people will be dragged down with it. The passenger ferry Express Samina has struck rocks near the island of Paros in the Aegean Sea. 533 passengers and crew face a battle to survive in high winds and stormy seas. Some people have managed to clamber into a lifeboat. Others have stayed with the ship and now fear it will sink beneath them.
At that stage, we were on the deck trying to figure out whether it was a good idea to jump overboard as well. But we were tilting further and further, and it was getting to the point where we didn't really have that choice anymore.
It's 10:50, 40 minutes after the collision.
Sarah! Are you looking at me?
As the Samina continues to roll, Katrina Stark has little choice. She hauls herself over the rail. The ship has turned completely on its side. Katrina is sitting on the hull. Should she try to swim for shore or wait for rescue?
While I was sitting there thinking about that, all of a sudden the ship just sank underneath us and sucked us down and everything around it. I don't know how much time we were under the water, but I had enough time to think, okay, well, this is the part where I die. This is the part where I drown. I kind of thought, well, okay, that's fine, and had enough time to be okay with that.
Just as we got there, we saw the ferry sinking, which was an extreme sight.
And to see this entire ship sink beneath the waves and to be gone and just leave us in our little lifeboat it was amazing. It was almost beautiful in a sad sort of way.
And then complete blackness, darkness, huge waves.
The Samina sinks 2.5 kilometers from the gates of Paros. Even without its engines, wind, waves, and the ship's own momentum carry the Samina closer to the shore. The sea here is 38 meters deep. As the Samina goes down, huge bubbles of air escape from the ship, making the water less dense, making objects in the water sink more quickly. Katrina Stark sinks several meters before the buoyancy of her life jacket pulls her up again.
As suddenly as I had been sucked under, suddenly I popped out the top.
Her priority now is to find her cousin, Sarah. In the storm, she can't tell where she is.
The waves were so big that for 1 second it sounded like she was over there, and so I tried to swim that way, and then the next second it sounded like, oh, she's over there. I tried to swim that way.
Sarah! Sarah! I can hear you, but I can't see you! Sarah! Sarah!
Eventually I just said to her, okay, make sure that you get on a boat and get back to land, and I will see you back on shore.
At 11:15 p.m., Dr. Polyzoides receives his first casualty of the night, but something doesn't add up.
They brought a man on a stretcher. He was semi-conscious. And then we started working on him. He had hardly any blood pressure. And when we were resuscitating him, I realized that he was dry, which it meant that he didn't actually, he was not from the ship. Anyway, we carried on. Eventually, we lost him. He died in our hands. And then people came and he said, you know who it was? And I said, no.
His patient isn't from the Samina, but the disaster still claims its first victim. The man is Dimitrios Malamas, who'd been helping organize the rescue. In the crisis, he'd suffered a heart attack. He was 40 years old.
So you can understand, even at this early stage, although we did not know the number of people that we're going to lose, there was that sense of tragedy immediately from the very beginning.
A local shopkeeper, George Skandalis, grabs his video camera and captures these first raw images as survivors begin to appear.
As soon as we got close enough to shore, and when I saw this white cathedral with the blue dome top, that was when I finally knew we made it. We're gonna get to shore, we're gonna be alive.
I felt more alive than I've ever felt in my life. Giddy, almost giddy. And actually afterwards, one of the things that I had to come to terms with was that people died and I felt so alive.
One of the local fishing boats now appears, crowded with people who've been dragged from the sea. Local boat owner Alexis Bisbas is part of the rescue flotilla searching for survivors.
1 minute we were flying across the top of a wave, the next minute we were burying the bow of the boat into the previous wave. We had water coming across the decks. I've been sailing all my life. I've never had a situation like that. I never want to be in that situation ever again because it was terrifying.
He plucks 25 people from the sea in 3 trips out into the stormy waters.
One of the amazing things in these situations is the way that people behave. A young man we pulled out, he was still carrying his portable stereo system. So the one hand's trying to grab hold of the boat, and the other hand, as we realized, was being hampered by this stereo system that he still had in his other hand. One of them was an old lady who had tied to her life jacket her bag. As we were trying to drag her into the boat, we realized that something was stopping her, and I went to cut her free of this bag, and she said to us that if we did, we should throw her back because that was her entire life in this bag.
Many survivors are in a state of shock. All are cold, wet, and exhausted. Just a few hundred meters away, dozens of people are still in the water, trying to stay alive until they're spotted by a rescue boat. Katrina Stark and a fellow survivor, a total stranger, are now clinging desperately to a piece of wreckage.
My first surprise about being in the water was that it was warm. I was really expecting the water to be cold. They were big waves, and you just had to cling on tight to the piece of wreckage. Not too far away from us was an older Greek woman who couldn't swim. And she was panicking and was screaming and yelling, trying to get someone to come and save her. And the guy that I was with was saying, she's going to want to come over to us, and if she grabs hold of us, she's going to drag us down.
Keep her away! She'll kill us both together!
She had kind of wild eyes, like she was clearly panicking. And a big wave came and washed over her, and she didn't come back up out of the water. She had drowned.
There are still some signs of hope. Some people have been pushed south by the wind. Miraculously avoiding being smashed onto the rocks, they've wound up on a sandy beach, the Bay of St. Irene. A life raft beaches in the same spot. They're safe now, but the terror these little children have gone through is hard to comprehend. More than 400 survivors have now wound up on the dockside. Many have suffered a terrifying ordeal in the water. They're rushed to the medical center, where Dr. Polyzoides has now assembled a team of 15 medics. Some doctors and nurses based on the island, others tourists who've come in to assist.
Between 11:30 and 12, the first drowned was brought in on a stretcher. And although I worked for 35 years as an accident surgeon, it was a horrible experience. And that was the beginning of the horrific feeling which I had that this is serious now.
At midnight, after an hour in the water, Katrina Stark is brought to shore.
We were the last people that they were able to bring up onto the boat. And they headed back for the harbour. And on the way, they stopped a couple of times to pick people up, but they would go to pick them up and realise that they were dead, and so they'd just leave them where they were.
Katrina doesn't know if her cousin made it.
Sarah? Katrina?
I was just never been so happy to see anybody in my whole life. And I just grabbed hold of her and wouldn't leave her side for a second.
To see you. Oh, you are you okay? Are you keeping warm? Yeah.
It was terrifying. I mean, it's been 5 years since the accident, and I still have nightmares. I still think about it. It will still make me cry.
You guys have had quite a shock being in the water.
It was traumatic, and it was very scary, but it was also a singularly defining moment in my life where I was able to use all of the resources I had to survive.
I think we've got him! Pull, 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 pull!
I don't think I would have chosen not to live through this.
At midnight, more than 2 hours after the collision, the rescue operation is becoming more and more a search for bodies.
When you start seeing the bodies in the sea, somebody that I knew that an hour ago they were breathing, and suddenly they're dead, and it was very distressing. I mean, it took me a very long time to put it out of my mind. It was very difficult.
25 people are now confirmed dead. As victims continue to arrive, Dr. Polyzoides is overwhelmed.
Do I go to this room and try and save someone? Do I wait and see whether it's worth saving? And it was like a catastrophe. It was as if it was coming the end of the world to this island. So it was almost like you're seeing a movie that's not happening to you. Every half an hour, the number of bodies increased.
By 2:30 a.m., the number of dead reaches 60. There's no room for so many bodies in the medical center. The Church of St. Nicholas on the waterfront now becomes a temporary morgue. The search for people, alive or dead, continues right through the night. Very soon, investigators will begin to ask tough questions. Who's to blame for the sinking? Why did so many people have to die? The passenger ferry Express Samina has sunk in a storm in the Aegean Sea. Already 60 people are confirmed dead. Many more need medical treatment. Morning reveals the power of last night's storm. A lifeboat lies smashed to pieces on the rocks. Life rafts blew away, empty. A message board at the harborfront lists who's alive and who's still missing. Bodies will continue to wash up on the beaches for days to come. There aren't enough coffins on Paros. More arrive. Even the most experienced professionals are touched by the trauma.
I was so shaken by this that I didn't sleep for 2 nights, and on the 3rd night, where I went to sleep, I dreamt that my son was drowning.
Very quickly, the grief turns to anger. Where were the crew when the ship hit the rocks? Where were they when the passengers needed help? Rumors spread like wildfire and are picked up by the media. Were some members of the crew watching the soccer game on TV when they should have been steering the ship? The captain, 53-year-old Vasilis Yanakos, is held for questioning by the police. On Paros, the funerals begin. Here, a 4-year-old boy drowned with his father. Divers discover 10 bodies trapped inside the hull of the Samina. The last body is found floating 2 weeks after the sinking, 50 kilometers north of Paros. Altogether, 80 people have died, 75 passengers, 5 crew members. This is Greece's worst shipping disaster in more than 30 years, a national tragedy. In the bitter aftermath, the spotlight falls on the company which owned the Samina and its vice president, Pantelis Sphinias. He could face criminal charges, as well as multi-million-dollar compensation claims. 2 months after the sinking, police surround a body lying on the sidewalk outside company headquarters in Athens. Sphinias has jumped out of his 6th-floor window, committing suicide. Maritime experts at the National Technical University of Athens begin an inquiry. Detailed testimony is gathered from 46 crew members, as well as 192 passengers. The Greek legal authorities want the university to give them a thorough explanation of what happened. Professor David Molyneux of the National Research Centre of Canada is one of the world's leading experts on ferry safety. He's studied the findings of the Greek investigators, who came up with a startling realization.
What they found at the inquiry defied some of the initial speculation concerning the age of the ship, and the accident, in fact, turned out to be caused by something completely different.
Testimony reveals each small but critical factor that together turn a routine ferry crossing into a national disaster. 3 hours into the journey, the crew switch on the ship's autopilot.
The autopilot is an electronic link between the compass and the rudder, correcting the rudder a little bit one way or the other to bring you back where you want to be.
Even on autopilot, a crew member should constantly monitor the ship's position.
It's bad practice to leave an autopilot unattended, particularly in bad weather, because the wind, the waves, and the current are all acting to drift the ship in one direction. And that kind of steady drift is not compensated for by the electronics in the autopilot.
As the weather grows worse, the crew deploy the ship's stabilizer system to make the ride more comfortable for the passengers. The stabilizer uses two small fins to counteract the roll of the ship. But something extraordinary has happened. Only the starboard or right-hand stabilizer fin has extended.
Very unusual. Normally we'd expect both stabilizers to be working at any one time. With just one stabilizer, the ship is no longer symmetrical, so the flow around the ship is unbalanced, and as a result, the ship will tend to drift one way rather than go in a straight line.
With only the starboard stabilizer, the Samina is pulled slowly but surely to the right. It's a deadly malfunction. Captains aim to stay at least 740 meters left of the gates of Paros. But when the Samina arrives, she's on collision course. A crew member makes a last-minute attempt to steer the ship to the left, but the ship can't turn quickly enough.
It was very unfortunate the ship got holed, but there was really no reason why the ship should have sank. The damage was within the range that you would normally expect a ship to survive.
The east face of the taller pinnacle is where the ship strikes, at 12 minutes past 10 p.m. There's a 6-meter lengthways gash, as long as a telephone pole, and 1 meter wide. But this hole is well above the waterline. No water should enter the ship. Moments later, a second impact. The stabilizer fin bends backwards. It stabs like a dagger through the ship's side.
Oh my God!
This 3-meter gash is below the waterline. Even worse, it's exactly alongside the engine room. The main generators are knocked out. Electrical power is cut throughout the ship. The investigating team orders divers to make a detailed survey of the wreck of the Samina. Inside, they discover the final piece of the puzzle. Even with 2 large holes, the ship could have been saved. One final error sealed the fate of the Samina. The passenger ferry Express Samina strikes rocks near the Greek island of Paros. With 2 gaping holes in her starboard side, she capsizes and sinks in 38 meters of water. Divers go down to survey the wreck and make a startling discovery. Like all large seagoing ships, the Samina is divided into separate compartments, sealed by watertight doors like this one. Safety laws insist they remain locked while the ship's at sea. On the Samina's last journey, some of the doors were open.
If you imagine in your house, every time you went through a door from the kitchen, you had to close it, lock it, move on to the living room, open that door, close it, lock it, and carry on. It really does slow down your everyday life. So there is a tendency sometimes to leave these doors open.
Because they're left open, water is no longer confined to the engine room. And now that the power is cut, the crew can't close the doors remotely. Okay. 29 of the crew are called back for a second grilling by investigators. This testimony provides an exact picture of the ship's last moments, data which is now built into a computer model. At 10:15, 3 minutes after the collision, the ship is listing only 5 degrees to the right. but filling fast through that hole in the engine room. By 10:25, she's listing 14 degrees. Now the 6-meter gash, which was above the waterline, is exposed to the sea. This is the point where the Samina and 80 of those on board are doomed. The ship can't withstand this degree of damage. The Samina is what's called a ro-ro ferry. It stands for roll-on, roll-off. This is a modern ro-ro ship. Vehicles simply reverse in through the stern doors and then drive out at their destination. It's a cost-effective design with a potentially fatal flaw. The worst shipping disasters in recent times have involved vessels designed this way. The Herald of Free Enterprise went down with the loss of 193 lives at Zeebrugge in Belgium in 1987. 850 were drowned aboard the ro-ro ferry Estonia in the Baltic Sea in 1994. Unlike a cruise ship or a cargo vessel, which are divided into many smaller compartments, the vehicle deck of a ro-ro ship is one large open area, highly vulnerable to rapid flooding.
Imagine comparing flooding an egg box with flooding just an empty cardboard shoebox. The shoebox would tend to fill up very, very quickly, whereas an egg box would tend to fill up each compartment at a time, and so the egg box would stay afloat, whereas the shoebox wouldn't.
This open space is especially vulnerable because it's so close to the waterline.
The car deck on a ro-ro ferry is low to make driving the vehicles on and off easy. As a result, you're relying on those watertight compartments to keep the ship afloat in the event of damage.
By 10:29, the Samina is listing 23 degrees. She's now tilting so much that it's impossible to launch more lifeboats. Only 3 of the 8 she carried got away. 3 minutes later, at 10:32, she's listing 33 degrees. At around 10:50, the ship turns completely on her side.
We know the exact time that the ship sank because the clock on the bridge was stopped at 2 minutes past 11.
Divers surveying the wreck make their most important discovery. Of the ship's 11 watertight doors, 9 were left open.
And the most important aspect of this accident was leaving the watertight doors open. As a result, the ship flooded, lost all its reserve of buoyancy, and eventually sank.
If the doors had been locked, despite the navigational error which put the ship on the rocks, despite the hole in the engine room, this would probably have been a survivable accident. The trial of ship's captain Vasilis Giannakos and 7 others began in May 2005, more than 4 years after the disaster. The sinking of the Samina led to safety improvements. Greece cut the maximum working life of passenger ferries from 35 to 30 years. The tragedy also helped speed the introduction of voyage recorders, like an airplane black box. They're now mandatory in all passenger ferries. Some good came out of bad. For the first time since those dramatic events, Katrina Stark has come back to Paros. It's an emotional return.
It was a pretty traumatic thing to go through, but it's quite a character-building experience, and I think it plays a large part in who I am today.
For their role in helping to save lives, Heidi Hart and Christine Shannon were given an award for heroism by the city of Seattle.
I understand my strength a lot more, and I can live freely without the restraints of being scared of what's unknown, because life is an unknown.
Even for a heroine, it's tough to look back.
Christine and I, we always say we were the lucky ones. We were in the right place at the right time, and that is the only thing I can think of why we made it and so many other people didn't. And it breaks my heart.